Good morning. Welcome back to the Red Mic. Happy Thursday. Glad you're here. Today's Red Mic message, the trust pyramid. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you've heard me talk about what I call my upside down pyramid view of leadership. It's built on the idea that good leadership's not about standing at the top of the organization and directing down. It's about standing underneath it, supporting the people closest to the mission. Customers are at the top, or if you're in government, your constituents. Frontline workers are beneath them, leaders at the bottom holding the whole thing up. Now that's my mindset, my framework of when I'm in the workplace. But there's other pyramids and they're oriented differently. There's a guy named Justin Wright, and he put together something he calls the trust pyramid. And it's his way of explaining how leaders earn credibility with the people that they lead. A lot of leadership advice talks about authority, strategy, motivation, stuff like that. Wright's pyramid gets at something a little bit more fundamental. He says, before people will follow your vision, before they'll buy into your strategy, before they will go the extra mile when things get hard, they have to trust you. And he says that that's built from the ground up in 3 layers. He says the foundation of all of that is transparency. You've got to let people see how decisions are made. You've got to explain the why, not just here's the decision. Take it or leave it, like it or lump it. You know, some leaders think that if you explain too much, it's a weakness. I don't think that's true. I think when people understand the reasoning behind a decision, even if they don't fully agree with it, they're far more likely to support it. Now, does that mean you've got to explain every little thing along the way? No, but you've got to have that track record of transparency for people to eventually for people to take you at face value. If you let people see the process, how information flows, how problems are evaluated, how the decisions get made, they're going to buy into it a lot easier. The people who are in your system, who are in your organization, they don't expect you as the leader to know everything, but they do expect you to not hide the ball. That's what transparency is. The second layer of Wright's pyramid is honesty. Now, that sounds kind of obvious, but unfortunately, it's surprisingly rare, I think, in a lot of so-called leadership structures. Honesty means you give direct feedback instead of letting problems linger. It means saying what needs to be said with respect and clarity instead of dancing around the issue. It means admitting when you're wrong, too. And that's a hard one for a lot of people in leadership roles. The interesting thing about that is, though, if you admit a mistake, it rarely undermines or weakens your authority. Most of the time, it strengthens it because most people don't expect perfection. They don't expect you to be a perfect person. So when you admit that you made a mistake, and they already know that something went wrong. But when you acknowledge it openly, honestly, and you take responsibility, it tells this team this is a place where truth matters more than ego. And that's you stepping up. Honesty also means you've got to have the tough decisions, the tough conversations early. Otherwise, those small problems are going to snowball. They're going to turn into bigger problems. As a leader, it's easy to chase harmony, but you're not going to build trust without having some of those difficult conversations. You've got to handle them with integrity, credibility. Now, at the top of Wright's pyramid is consistency, and that's hard. That that's the one that I've had personal trouble with in the past. Previous organization, I had a person in a position of authority, and I liked them personally quite a bit. Got along. We talked about old music, you know, the uh, the Wrecking Crew, back in the 60s and 70s, and stuff like that. They were not a good leader. They were disorganized. They tended to blame people below them for things that, they should have been taken care of. And I had a blind spot there, and it took me a while, but I fixed it. You've got to be consistent. If you do not have consistency at the top and it's got to flow all the way down, trust can completely collapse. And it's your job to make sure that it's not doing that. You have to be the same person every day, not one version when things are calm, another version when the pressure hits, not when, everything's hitting the fan. Your words have to match your actions. Your standards have to apply evenly. Expectations cannot change depending on who is in the room, no matter how much you like them personally. Because if you as a leader are inconsistent, people are going to spend their energy trying to predict you and how you're going to act and react instead of doing the job. But if you're consistent, other things happen and they're all good. People relax, they focus, they know what the rules are. Your consistency turns leadership into something that people don't worry about. It turns into something that they can rely on. Now, here's why Wright's pyramid fits so well with my upside down pyramid. If leadership really means supporting the people closest to the mission, then trust is the thing that allows them to lean on you. And without the trust, the whole thing's going to collapse. It's going to fall under its own weight. Transparency tells your team what you're doing. Honesty tells them where you stand. Consistency tells them they can rely on you. And all of those three things create the very foundation that allows my upside down pyramid structure to actually work in the real world. Because if your people trust you, they don't waste time wondering what the agenda is. They focus on the mission. And when that happens, great things happen. People stop working for you and they start working with you. And that's when leadership stops being positional, it starts being real. And that's today's Red Mike message. I hope these things are proving to be helpful in your own life, in your own workplace, in your own interactions. That's why I do this every day. I mentioned yesterday, this weekend is 2 years I've been doing these every weekday, Monday through Friday. The times have changed. I started off doing it sort of haphazardly, and then it was every afternoon at the same time, and then it shifted to the morning, and I've stayed at the morning time now. And people ask me, well, why do you do this? It's like, well, I got this stuff up here that I read, and I think, oh, well, here's an interesting part of that, and I want to share that. And it comes down to, telling people the stuff that I've learned in my 25 years as a public servant, my 16 years as a youth football coach and scouting volunteer, and my 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. All of that is at the core of these Red Mike messages. And that's why I do it. And I want to thank you again for being here. Wouldn't do this. If I was putting these messages out and had nobody paying attention, I'd stop doing it. Honestly, I think that would be a sign of insanity. No one's listening? Then shut up. So I appreciate you. I really do. Thanks for being here. I'll see you again tomorrow. Hashtag Fun Friday. I'm going to have a, not quite a Sheldon Cooper-ish retrospective, but I'm going to try to have some fun with what we've been talking about the last couple of years. I love you guys. I'll see you again tomorrow. And don't forget, as always, life is short. Drink the bourbon. I'll see you.